All right. I don't know what happened. I got kicked out. Ben, are you still there?
I think we all got kicked out.
Okay. Well, we'll stand by for further word from our courtroom monitor. All right, it looks like we can proceed. Right now, I'm not seeing Mr. Henderson, our third scoring panelist.
Your Honor, one of my teammates is in the waiting room.
Okay, we will stand by till we have everyone. All right, we have Mr. Henderson. Let me ask the prosecution if it looks like you have everyone from your team now,
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
and the same for the defense. Do you have everyone?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, we will try to get started again. Thanks for bearing with our technical difficulties. The people may make their opening statement.
Good evening. My name
Excuse
is
me, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, hold on for just a moment. Yes?
Do we have preliminary matters to address?
I had asked that and was told there were none. So let me go back. The defense, are there any preliminary matters? Maybe it happened when we got cut off.
Oh yeah, I think I must have got kicked out at the time because you asked and
Okay.
there's and then you got caught up. Okay.
I'm glad you stopped me. Go ahead.
So has the prosecution already
The
said
prosecution
their
said,
preliminary matters?
yes, the prosecution said they did not have any preliminary matters.
Okay. So the defense asked to remain seated for the purposes of staying on screen.
You may.
Permission to share evidence through Zoom
You may.
and share rosters through Zoom.
Yes.
And to stop time while pulling up evidence for screen share.
If it is going to take some time because of technical difficulties, then I will agree to stop time. Otherwise, no, I'd prefer to keep moving along, but give you you certainly may have a team member working on that if you'd like.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Then with that, the prosecution may proceed with their opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Issa Roth, and I'm one of the prosecutors on this case. On March 6, 2020, the defendant in this case, Avery Becker, broke into Mr. Brackman's house and stabbed him in the back with a knife, murdering him. At the end of this trial, we'll be asking for a verdict of guilty. The prosecution will call 3 witnesses to the stand. We will call a homicide detective, Detective Jordan Markowitz, who will testify that Avery Becker is in fact guilty after trying to vandalize Mackenzie Brackman's house and will do so by tracing cell phones. Kyle Kuzak will be called and will explain that this crime was planned by the intruder, Avery Becker, and how our victim was fatally injured by Becker after Mr. Brackman ensued a fight out of his own defense. Lastly, you will listen to Avery's friend and former mock trial teammate, Alex Fuentes, as she reveals the dark and unpredictable side of Avery and her motivations for the violent murder of Mr. Brackman.
Judge Fookweiler, I apologize. I cannot hear her.
Can you hear me now?
No, I really haven't heard a thing you've said. I'm so sorry. And I don't hear Judge Lutweiler. But I don't hear, yours is so faint, I can't hear. Can you talk a little louder, or I've got the volume all the way up?
Yes, my bad. Should I start over?
Can you get it louder than that?
Is this okay?
Can you get it any louder? I barely can hear you. And I have mine turned all the way up.
No, I cannot. Is this
Can
good?
you get closer to the
Angel, if you want to
Yeah.
disconnect, I'll let you back in.
Is there something you can do to help? Because I have my speakers 100%.
I don't know. I think it might just be that the connection might be wrong. If you want to sign out and then sign back in, we can see if that'll make a difference.
Yes, it would be great, because otherwise I could not participate. I'm going to sign out and sign back in. I might see if I can grab a speaker to plug in. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. I'm going to stay signed in and grab a speaker.
Judge Lutweiler, this is Mr. Henderson. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. I believe you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. We're going to give Ms. McCall just a moment to see if she can get a different speaker. And then Ms. Roth, I'm going to let you start over with the time going back to 0 in just a moment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may need to speak up a good bit. I'm having difficulty hearing you as well.
And this is Mr. Henderson. She is very faint. I am able to hear her. But Issa, if you could move a little closer to your microphone, that would be helpful.
Angel, are you ready to proceed?
I'm plugging the speakers in.
All right, we'll set the time back to 0, please, timekeepers, and Ms. Roth, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Issa Roth, and I'm one of the prosecutors on this case. On March 6, 2020, the defendant in this case, Avery Becker, broke into Mr. Brackman's house and stabbed him in the back with a knife, murdering him. At the end of this trial, we'll be asking for a verdict of guilty. The prosecution will call 3 witnesses to the stand. We will call homicide detective, Detective Jordan Markowitz, who will testify that Avery Becker is in fact guilty after trying to vandalize Mackenzie Brackman's house and will do so by tracing cell phones. Kyle Kuzak will be called and will explain that this crime was planned by the intruder, Avery Becker, and how our victim was fatally injured by Becker after Mr. Brackman ensued a fight out of his own defense. Lastly, you will listen to Avery's former friend and former mock trial teammate, Alex Cifuentes, as she reveals the dark and unpredictable side of Avery and her motivations for the violent murder of Mr. Brackman. The defense will claim that there is not enough evidence to prove Avery Becker guilty of Mackenzie Brackman's murder, but the 3 witnesses called to the stand today will state that the intruder and murderer, Avery Becker, had very clear intentions and planned this crime well in advance, which can be proven through multiple pieces of evidence and by 2 expert witnesses. Throughout the course of this case, you will become familiar with Avery Becker, who has a history of getting away with things. You will learn how Avery got away with showing a complete lack of respect to her mock trial coach, Mr. Mackenzie Brackman. You will hear from Alex Cifuentes how Avery Becker routinely came to practice late and ill-prepared. And finally, you will listen as Avery Becker explains to you how she hopes to escape once again from her well-deserved consequences, specifically from the verdict of guilty for murdering her former mock trial coach, Mr. Brackman. Avery's luck is a ticking time bomb. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at the conclusion of this case, we ask you, as the prosecution, to declare the defendant guilty so Avery Becker will finally be held accountable for her recklessness and so Mackenzie Brackman will achieve justice for his violent murder. Thank you.
I'm sorry, my microphone was muted. Opening statement for the defense, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Let me take you back to the golden days of childhood, when we'd pass by our days by solving puzzles. And the worst frustration in our 6-year-old selves' eyes was getting to the end of the puzzle and finding multiple missing pieces. We'd look back at the puzzle and find that its picture was almost unrecognizable without those pieces. Now imagine this. The puzzle's picture is a scene of a murder, and the blood is on your hands. The puzzle presented to you by the prosecution is an incomplete one. On March 6, 2020, Mackenzie Brackman was found dead at his residence. According to the prosecution, our defendant, Avery Becker, a teenager with a natural talent and passion for mock trial, is guilty of murdering Brackman. As defendants, we are present today with a standard of proof to uphold Avery Becker's lack of motive and the police's cursory investigation of this case. Throughout this trial, the facts and evidence will continually prove that Becker was wrongfully accused of murder. We're here to encourage you to take note of all the missing pieces. Imagine you're our client, Avery Becker, a teenager who's still navigating the world, but you have a gift of persuading juries and arguing well in court. Unfortunately, Becker was punished for this gift. Becker often came to meetings unprepared, which became a source of conflict between Coach Brackman and Becker. Eventually, Brackman demoted Becker down to the Colorado High School's mock trials B team. Naturally, Becker reacted in a foolish but typical teenage manner. Becker rode on Brackman's car with what she thought was an erasable marker. And as a result, Becker was kicked off of the mock trial team entirely. The prosecution will tempt you to believe that this is enough motive for someone to take another's life. But the reality is that Becker has shown remorse for her actions and repeatedly tried to apologize to Brackman. Today, you'll also hear from 2 supporting witnesses, Taylor Perkins and Blake Van Owen. Taylor Perkins is another member at the mock trial team at Colorado High School and is also Becker's best friend. During the whole day of the crime, Becker was with Perkins the whole day as they were looking for Becker's phone that went missing the night before. Though Perkins and Becker went to a variety of places, including the mall and a restaurant called the Fry Shack, evidence will show that they never strayed from their search and certainly never traveled to Coach Brackman's house. Professor Blake Van Owen is a private investigator and professor. She's previously testified as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell tower analysis, and police investigation tactics and practices, including the use of force and false arrest. She's a strong advocate of social justice and law enforcement, and in this case, Van Owen investigated the inconsistencies with the prosecution's crime scene reconstruction, including issues with scuff marks, stab wounds, and the footage with Brockman's ring system. The presented puzzle is one that's incomplete, thanks to the very police trying to convince you that Becker is guilty and fully capable of murder at age 17. The prosecution will try to convince you that this is the full picture. However, you'll consistently observe missing pieces, starting with Detective Jordan Markowitz, who has questionable certifications and has made assumptions with insufficient cell phone data, as well as from other witnesses, including Kyle Kozak, a biased officer, and Alex Cifuentes, a member of the Colorado High School mock trial team, who was constantly in competition with our client, Avery Becker. Throughout this entire trial, as defendants, we will make it evident that there are numerous missing pieces in the prosecution's puzzle that prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Becker is innocent. From a lack of investigation to simple assumptions made based off of insufficient evidence to a clear lack of motive from our client, the jury will see that this investigation was nowhere near thorough enough to convict Avery Becker of murder. The police have attempted to put this puzzle together using an incomplete set of pieces. With these, they've created their own version of what happened, a marred picture of this puzzle. So members of jury, the power is in your hands. When it comes to a lost life, we shouldn't be satisfied with an incomplete picture. Rather, we must recognize the missing pieces. Today, we're simply asking you to bring justice to Avery Becker and to the late Mackenzie Brockman. At the end of this trial, I ask you to submit a verdict that Avery Becker is not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. The people may call their first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Detective Jordan Markowitz to the stand.
All right, Detective Markowitz, will you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Jordan Markowitz, spelled Markowitz.
And why are you here today?
I'm here to testify against Avery Becker.
Tell me a little bit about your occupation.
Well, I'm a homicide detective for the Denver Police Department.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I've been a detective for the past 7 years.
And what other certifications do you have?
I have a certification in cell phone analysis and cell tower and forensic data recovery.
And what did that involve?
I took a 3-day training course and passed a certification test from the American Academy of Law Enforcement.
And in which ways have you used that in your everyday life at work?
I use it all the time. I've downloaded the contents of literally hundreds of cell phones and used this data in 50 cases.
Your Honor, I move to enter Detective Jordan Markowitz as an expert witness in the fields of homicide, cell phone technology, and forensic data recovery on the basis of his training, experience, and certification in these fields.
Is there any objection from the defense?
Your Honor, permission to perform a brief voir dire.
You may.
Detective Markowitz, you just testified you have specialized training in cell phone data, correct?
That's correct.
However, to obtain that certification, you completed a 3-day training course, correct?
Yes.
And other than that, you didn't mention any other education or training related to cellular technology and forensics data recovery?
No formal education or training. However, I have countless years of experience.
Thank you. Your Honor, I request that this witness not be admitted as an expert in detective work and cellular technology because of their limited training and education in the field of cell phone technology.
Any response from the people?
Yes, Your Honor. In order to be qualified as an expert witness, you need experience or training, and in this case, Detective Jordan Markowitz more than meets the experience requirement and therefore should be allowed to be an expert witness.
Thank you. The objection is overruled and Detective Markowitz will be accepted as an expert.
So how did you come to be involved with the Mackenzie Brackman case?
I was assigned the case in March of 2020.
And tell me about some of the initial details in this case.
Well, there was a driver who passed by Mackenzie Brackman's house on 444 South Flower Street, and they saw him laying on his porch, face down.
And when you arrived at the crime scene, what were some of your first observations?
Well, I noticed that the victim was face down just inside the door, and there was blood near the victim, and there was a stab wound in the victim's back. There was also a ring security system with cameras.
Your Honor, may I please present Exhibits 1, 2, and 5?
You may.
Can you see Exhibit 1?
Yes.
And can you briefly describe what this photograph shows?
This is a picture of the victim lying face down just inside the house. And in the top right corner of the picture, we can see the Ring doorbell with the camera.
Thank you. And may you please also briefly describe what you see in this exhibit?
This is another angle of the victim's body, and this is from the opposite direction inside the house.
Thank you.
We can see the stab wound on the left shoulder.
And then this is Exhibit 5. May you please briefly describe what this one shows?
This is the murder weapon found near the victim's body.
And do the contents of these 3 exhibits accurately reflect what you saw at the crime scene?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibits 1, 2, and 5 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 5 is admitted.
I asked that Exhibits 1, 2, and 5 were admitted, if you're okay with that.
I'm sorry. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, exhibits 1, 2, and 5 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, will you please describe what you saw in these photographs?
Well, these were all pictures of the brutal murder of Mackenzie Brackman. We saw 2 pictures of his body as well as the security system in addition to the murder weapon.
And what other physical observations did you make at the crime scene?
Well, so I looked at the victim's body, and then I went around the house and noticed that the back gate was unlatched. And as I walked through the gate, I went and I saw the back sliding glass door was also open.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I please now present Exhibits 7 and 8?
You may.
Thank you. Can you see what is marked as Exhibit 7?
Yes.
And then this is Exhibit 8. Can you also see that?
Yes.
Do you recognize what is shown in these photographs?
Yes, I saw both of these when I was at the crime scene. The first picture is of an open knife drawer, and the second picture is of a knife block, and there's a slot missing where a knife would usually be.
Thank you. And do the contents of these photographs accurately reflect what you saw at the crime scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibits 7 and 8 be entered into evidence.
Any objection to 7 and 8?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 and 8 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And what were your additional observations of the crime scene?
Well, I noticed that there was the slot missing from the knife block and the open drawer, indicating that there's a good chance that the victim tried to grab a knife to defend themselves.
Did you see any other signs of struggle?
Yes, there was a broken plate on the floor and there were scuff marks near the door, as well as what I, in my professional opinion, think were cast-off marks near the door, which is when blood would have splattered when the victim was stabbed.
Thank you. Your Honor, do I have permission to share my screen once more?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. There we go. I am now showing you what has been marked as exhibit number 9. Do you recognize what is shown in this photograph?
Yes, this is the picture of the plate that was found at the crime scene, the broken plate on the floor.
And does the content of this photograph accurately reflect what you saw at the crime scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move that exhibit 9 is entered into evidence.
Any objection to exhibit 9?
Objection relevance.
Response, Ms. May?
This image is incredibly relevant. It goes to give the jury a more accurate depiction of the crime scene and does indicate a struggle, which will come to be very important throughout the course of this case.
Any reply to that?
Your Honor, I do not see how a picture of a broken plate directly correlates to the murder and the stabbing of Mackenzie Brockman.
Thank you. The objection is overruled and exhibit 9 will be admitted.
I would also like to present exhibit 10 to the jury, if you're okay with that, Your Honor.
Don't believe that exhibit 10 has been identified or we've had any testimony regarding that unless I've missed.
I was asking permission to show the video. Sorry. May I please introduce exhibit 10 to the jury and my witness, just to describe, so we can lay a foundation for entering it into evidence.
All right. With the scenario that we're under, or having to do this through Zoom, I'll go ahead and allow you to do that. We would not normally do that in regular times. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Detective Markowitz, may you please briefly describe what happened in this video?
Yes, this was the video taken by the Ring doorbell camera of the intruder walking up to the front door and trying to open the door, and finding that it was locked, they walked back.
Is this video an accurate representation of the Ring doorbell's content?
It is.
Your Honor, I ask that exhibit number 10 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 10 is admitted.
Your Honor, do I have permission to share exhibit number 11? I'm sorry, you're muted. I can't.
All right. Please ask your witness some foundational questions about that video first.
Sounds good. Detective Markowitz, can you briefly describe what happens in this video?
Yes, so in exhibit 10, we saw the intruder walk up to the door and tried to open it, and finding that it was locked, they walked back around the house.
And is this an accurate representation of the contents of the Ring doorbell?
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask that exhibit 11 be entered into evidence.
Any objection to exhibit 11?
No objection, Your Honor.
11 is admitted and you may publish that if you wished.
Thank you. I'm going to now play the video. Thank you. And finally, exhibit 12. Detective Markowitz, may you please briefly describe what we can see in exhibit 12?
I haven't seen the video yet.
It is the Ring doorbell video of when the suspect enters the residence from the back door.
Yes. So this is a video of when we can see the intruder open the back sliding glass door and enter the residence of Mackenzie Brockman.
Is it an accurate depiction of the contents of the Ring doorbell?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move that exhibit 12 is entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
12 is admitted.
And may I publish it?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Here is exhibit 12. Thank you. So besides the evidence that we just went over, is there anything else that you considered?
Objection vague.
I'm sorry, repeat your objection, please.
Objection vague question.
Any response?
I can restate the question.
All right, please do.
What information did you take into account when considering different suspects and motives?
Well, using my extensive training and experience, I looked at cell phone data records, or CDRs, to track Avery Becker's cell phone.
And how did you identify Avery Becker as a suspect?
Well, so I contacted the school and talked to the student, Alex Cifuentes, after the school had given me their
Objection
contact
hearsay.
information.
The objection is hearsay.
Yes,
Any
Your Honor.
response for the people?
I'm so sorry, I didn't get a chance to hear what my witness was saying before the objection. Jordan Markowitz, would you mind repeating what you said?
Well, hold on for just a moment. And let me ask Ms. Sodi, what part of the answer did you believe was hearsay?
Your Honor, Jordan Markowitz testified about a statement made by Alex Cifuentes, which is a witness that is not Jordan Markowitz, therefore testifying about a statement not made by the witness.
And Ms. May, any response to that?
In this case, it would be an exception to hearsay because he was there, he was present at the conversation, and he has enough information and experience to accurately testify for what was going on in this situation.
I will overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, so we were talking about how you identified Avery Becker as a possible suspect in this case.
Yes, so I contacted the school about the mock trial team because the victim is wearing a t-shirt, something along the lines of mock on. And there were numerous emails and text messages about mock trial on their phone. So I contacted the school and got contact information of students on the mock trial team. One of these students was Alex Cifuentes, who I interviewed. And this student gave me screenshots of text messages between them and Avery Becker.
Thank you. Your Honor, do I have permission to screen share?
Yes.
Thank you. I am showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 14. Can you briefly describe the content of this exhibit?
Yes, so these are the screenshots that Alex Cifuentes sent me, and these are text messages between Alex Cifuentes and Avery Becker.
And would you say that these are an accurate reflection of the text messages that you received?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
14 is admitted.
Thank you. So would you mind more in detail going over the contents of these text messages?
Yes, so in these text messages, we can say, or we can see that Avery Becker texts Alex Cifuentes, well, if he's upset about his car, then he's going to be really upset when he sees what I do to his house. And then Avery Becker goes on to say that she's going to break in and trash it.
And so what did you do when you received the information in these text messages?
Well, I contacted Avery Becker's service provider so I could access the cell phone records.
And how did you move on from there?
Well, I analyzed the cell phone records and found that Avery Becker's phone connected to 3 towers in the vicinity of Mr. Brackman's house. And in doing so, this shows that Avery Becker was in the area of the house at the time of the murder.
Thank you. So what can you tell us about these calls and texts that went through?
Well, one of Avery Becker's friends repeatedly called and texted her phone, and the calls weren't long enough to indicate that an actual conversation was held or even contact was made, which indicates that Avery Becker either didn't answer the phone, And then these text messages also help give me more data because I can get an accurate picture of which cell towers the phone connected to.
Thank you.
And shortly after the, sorry.
Continue.
And shortly after the crime, the phone stopped communicating with cell towers, which indicates that it was either put into airplane mode or completely shut down, or it could have been destroyed.
Thank you. Your Honor, do I have permission to screen share again?
You may.
Thank you. I am showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 15 and Exhibit 16. Do you recognize what is shown in these images?
Yes, this is the cell tower data that I recovered.
And is it an accurate representation of that data?
Yes.
And may you please explain what the dotted line shown in the images?
Yes, so in the second image here, we can see the dotted line, which is a rough estimate of where the phone traveled along these roads. And we can see that the dotted line starts at Avery Becker's house and ends at Mackenzie Brackman's house.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibits 15 and 16 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
15 and 16 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please describe how Avery Becker's phone interacted with the 3 cell towers shown?
Yes, so the cell tower that we can see at the top of the image, it was contacted at 12:47. And that is the cell tower that is closest to Avery Becker's house, which makes sense that it would connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 12:55, it contacted the second cell tower. And this indicates that Avery Becker was traveling towards Mackenzie Brackman's house. And then the bottom cell tower we can see was contacted at 1:06, or my apologies, 1:05, 1:06, and 1:17 p.m. And this indicates that Avery Becker was very close to Mr. Brackman's house directly at the time of the murder.
And when did communication with the cell towers stop? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I apologize, I must have gone on mute. So communication stopped right after the murder, which, as I said before, indicates that the phone was either shut off, put into airplane mode, or destroyed.
And based off the observations you made at the crime scene, what conclusions seem logical?
Well, the obvious conclusion that I can reach from here is that Avery Becker traveled to Mr. Brackman's house, broke in, murdered him, and then destroyed her phone. And this is all of the evidence that I need to conclude that Avery Becker was the murderer.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Detective Markowitz. For the following questions, I ask that you keep your answers to a yes or no answer as best to your ability.
Okay.
So Detective Markowitz, you stated that good police work requires following up on all potential leads, correct?
Yes.
And you also stated that you believe that there's a possibility that the intruder in Brockman's house could be the work of a disgruntled ex-client, correct?
Yes.
Yet you didn't follow up on that potential suspect?
I didn't find it necessary.
Thank you. Now moving on to our defendant, Avery Becker. You didn't choose to follow up on Becker's alleged alibi, correct?
No.
And you also didn't follow up on the alibi of Taylor Perkins, who was with Becker, allegedly the date the murder occurred, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't investigate any potential witnesses that could confirm or deny these alibis, correct?
I thought the data was sufficient.
Thank you. Now moving on to the people you did investigate. The first student from Colorado High School you interviewed was Alex Cifuentes, correct?
Yes.
However, Cifuentes came to you with the claim that Becker was allegedly planning to trash Brockman's house, correct?
Yes, that's what the text messages indicate.
Thank you. And Alex Cifuentes didn't bring their phone to the interview. Is that correct?
They did not.
And you didn't think that was odd at all?
No.
You had Cifuentes take screenshots of the text conversations between Becker and them?
Yes.
And you didn't receive these screenshots until the day after your interview with Cifuentes, right?
Correct.
And you didn't choose to obtain that source of evidence of text messages yourself?
No, I trusted Alex Cifuentes.
So to clarify, you only saw the pictures of the screenshots and you didn't actually see the text messages, correct?
No, or that is correct.
Thank you. Now moving on to Becker's phone, though you were able to physically retrieve weren't able to physically retrieve Becker's cell phone, you were able to obtain its records, correct?
Correct.
And based primarily on the cell phone records of Avery Becker's phone, you assume that Becker was at the same locations?
I do.
All right, and you also discovered that the CDR indicated that another phone was attempting to contact Becker's phone throughout the day on March 6th, correct?
Yes,
And you've confirmed that that phone belongs to Taylor Perkins,
I have.
but you never followed up on why Taylor Perkins was calling Avery Becker on that day.
I thought the data was sufficient.
Thank you. Now moving on to missing evidence, you were unable to present all of the pictures taken at the crime scene, correct?
Some of them are corrupted.
And you aren't aware how these pictures were corrupted?
I am not.
So Detective Markowitz, based on what you've testified, you did not follow up on all potential suspects, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't follow up on all potential key witnesses either.
Correct. However, I thought the data I collected was enough.
And you did not follow up on all potential evidence either.
In my expert opinion, the data that I collected and the evidence that I saw myself was enough.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We'll give our scorekeepers just a moment and then we'll start with the next witness. The people may call their next witness.
The
Thank you.
people call Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The people call Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
Thank you. Mr. Kuzak, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. To start off, will you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Kyle Kuzak, spelled Kylekuzak.
Thanks, Ms. Kuzak. And what do you do for a living?
I am a Colorado Bureau of Investigation certified crime scene reconstruction investigator, also known as a CSR.
Do you have any certifications?
I am certified in being a CSR.
And what is your experience in this field?
I have 19 years of experience in areas such as complex crime scenes, domestic violence, fatal accidents, and armed robberies.
And can you tell us about your process when reconstructing a crime scene?
So I begin my reconstruction with two key principles, which are assumption that the case will be going to trial. So I am as thorough as possible in my investigation, and I document all the information that is available to me. And then I also prepare with the mindset of a future reconstruction. So I organize evidence in that manner.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move to enter Ms. Kyle Kuzak as an expert witness in the field of crime scene reconstruction on the grounds of her many years of experience and certification by the state of Colorado.
Any objection?
May the defense do a brief voir dire?
You may.
Now, Ms. Kuzak, you're not a police officer, are you? But rather a civilian, right?
That is correct.
And how long have you been with the city of Denver?
For 3 years.
And you are certified in the field of crime scene reconstruction, but did you bring any documentation with you today over that?
I did not.
Did you bring any documentation with you over your experience?
I did not.
The defense objects to the admission of Kyle Kuzak as an expert in the field of crime scene reconstruction under lack of foundation because there is no documentation to prove it.
And any reply to that?
Your Honor, documentation is not required for an expert witness. The expert witness testified to their experience and certification under oath. So I move that Ms. Kyle Kuzak continue to be entered as an expert witness in this case.
Thank you. The objection is overruled and Ms. Kuzak will be accepted as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kuzak, let's move on to the afternoon of March 6, 2020. Were you present at the scene of the homicide at 444 South Flower Street?
I was not present at the time, but I visited the scene after other members of the crime lab had processed it.
Your Honor, permission to approach Ms. Kuzak with Exhibit 18.
You may.
Ms. Kuzak, can you please first describe Exhibit 18?
Those are the scuff marks that were found near the back door of the victim's residence.
What is this exhibit's relevance to this case?
It is relevant because it indicates a struggle between two individuals.
Has this exhibit been altered in any way?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, permission to move Exhibit 18 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
18 is admitted.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with Exhibits 3 and 4.
You may.
Ms. Kyle Kuzak, what are Exhibits 3 and 4 of?
That is of the victim and his wound in his upper shoulder and back.
Have any of these been altered in any way?
No, they have not.
Your Honor, I move for Exhibits 3 and 4 to be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
Objection relevance.
Response?
Exhibits 3 and 4 show the wound that was put into Mackenzie Brackman and prove where the wound was and show different angles of the wound that the crime scene reconstructor saw.
The objection is overruled. Exhibits 3 and 4 are admitted.
I would now like to approach the witness with Exhibit 6.
You may.
Ms. Kuzak, what is Exhibit 6 a picture of?
That is a picture that I myself took away from the crime scene and at a crime lab.
Has this exhibit been altered in any way?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, I moved for Exhibit 6 to be entered into evidence.
Any objection to 6?
No objections.
Exhibit 6 is admitted.
I will now show the opposing counsel and the witness a clear and unmarked copy of Exhibit 19. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Kuzak, what is this image?
That is the autopsy of the victim, Mackenzie Brackman.
Did you use this autopsy report in your investigation?
I did.
And has it been altered in any way?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, I move for Exhibit 19 to be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Response?
This is the autopsy report of Mackenzie Brackman. We have established pictures of the murder scene, and this is just further clarifying what happened to Mackenzie Brackman on the day that he was killed.
Any reply?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled and Exhibit 19 is admitted.
Ms. Kuzak, can you read in the final page of the autopsy report the cause of death that was stated?
The cause of death stated is penetrating trauma to the thoracic aorta.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Exhibit 6. Exhibit 6. Is the blade described in the autopsy report consistent with the blade in Exhibits 5 and 6?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And now I want to move on to Professor Blake Van Owen. Are you aware of Professor Blake Van Owen's theory of the murder?
I am aware of it, yes.
What do you think of his theory?
I think that it doesn't account very important pieces of evidence, such as the scuff marks and the open knife drawer and the missing knife from the knife block. So I believe he came up with a predetermined conclusion that led him to not fully interpret the evidence.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. And now for your conclusion on the case. Let's piece it together. Where did the victim start?
The victim started at the front of the victim's residence.
And what did he do next?
He went to the south of the residence, in which he lost contact with the cameras and was later caught at the back of the residence.
And what do you conclude happened in the struggle that occurred between Mackenzie Brackman and Avery Becker?
I believe the victim was looking for a form of defense, so he grabbed the chef's knife from the knife block, and when the perpetrator entered, the victim was already aware of his presence, so they had a struggle all the way to the front door, in which the perpetrator gained access of the knife and stabbed the victim one time.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Ms. Kuzak, you did visit the crime scene, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
But it was processed before you ever got there, right?
Correct.
And you claimed the evidence of this case didn't give you a complicated fact pattern?
Yes, I did.
And you reported in your witness statement that your CSR process is very accurate and efficient?
Yes, I did.
Based on your reconstruction, the first event was the perpetrator trying to enter through the front door, right?
Yes.
But the perpetrator wearing a mask prevented anyone from seeing their face, right?
That is correct.
And the perpetrator was wearing gloves as well?
Yes.
And aside from Mackenzie Brackman, there was no DNA or fingerprint evidence found at the scene, was there?
No, there was not, which is expected considering the perpetrator was wearing gloves.
And according to your reconstruction, you claim the perpetrator took about 10 seconds to get from the gate to the back door?
Yes.
In this
Objection
time,
relevant.
Response to the relevance objection?
it goes to show the time frame in which everything was happening.
Any reply?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes.
According to your reconstruction, it took the perpetrator about 10 seconds to get from the gate to the back door, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And in this time, you believe the victim was notified, recognized a threat, and armed themselves?
Yes, I do.
Objection, speculation.
Response?
This falls well within the witness's expertise.
Any reply?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes.
In this time, you believe the victim, Mr. Brackman, was notified, recognized a threat, and armed himself?
Yes, I believe that it was over a 10-second period because that was the only time the victim was not seen, though.
Specifically, Brackman was notified by the Ring doorbell and security cameras at this time?
Yes, I believe so.
But did you ever look into Brackman's phone to see if his Ring notifications were on?
No, I did not. I don't believe that's in my expertise.
And you claim there was a scuffle between Brackman and the perpetrator near the back door, correct?
Yes.
And you also believe that a plate got knocked down in this scuffle, don't you?
Yes.
But there's many ways a plate can get broken, right?
That is correct, but considering the circumstances, I believe the plate was broken in a struggle.
And it's impossible to date scuff marks, isn't it?
That is correct.
So you have no way of proving the scuff marks were made in this supposed scuffle.
Objection, argumentative.
Response? I'm sorry, the response to the objection?
This is simply asking a question of possibility.
Any reply to that?
You are providing the witness with a summary of a story that the witness did not testify to and asking the witness to accept this story.
I will overrule the objection. Witness may answer.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes.
So you have no way of proving these scuff marks are formed in the scuffle, do you?
Yes, but considering I did a very in-depth analysis, I believe that is what occurred that day.
And there was a knife block located at the scene of the crime,
Yes, that's correct.
and a knife was missing from this block.
Yes,
And the knife used to stab Brackman was a Chicago cutlery chef's knife, wasn't it?
yes,
But this didn't match the knife block, did it?
it did not, but that is
Thank you.
not. Okay.
Were the knives in the knife block and the knife block itself from more expensive J.A. Henkel's knife set?
They were.
Objection relevance.
Response?
This goes to show the origin of the knife.
Any reply?
The brand of knives does not matter in this fact of the case.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
And or would you like me to restate the question?
Sure.
Were the knives in the knife block and the knife block itself from a more expensive J.A. Henkel's knife set?
Yes, I believe so.
And was the knife more expensive than the chef? Were the knives in the knife block more expensive than the knife that was used?
Yes, I believe so.
And is it true you read over how Blake Van Owen believes Brackman was stabbed?
Yes, I did.
And you disagree with this conclusion, don't you?
Yes.
But some of Ms. Van Owen's conclusions fall outside of your area of expertise, don't they?
That would be correct.
And you weren't even able to recreate all event segments and place all evidence in this case, were you?
That's correct, but I believe I have enough event segments to reach a conclusion in this case.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll give our scoring panelists a moment to catch up. The people may call their next witness.
Your Honor, can I call Alex Fuentes to the stand?
Is that Ms. Roth? Okay.
Yes.
Again, Ms. Roth, your voice is coming across very faintly, so we'll just ask you to speak up and tell me again who it is that you're calling as a witness.
May I call Alex Fuentes to the stand?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Alex Fuentes, if you'll raise your right hand, please. I don't see.
Hi, I'm here.
There. All right. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Roth, you may proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Fuentes. Could you state and spell your name for the jury?
My name is Alex Fuentes, Sifuentes.
Let's begin with your mock trial experience. How long have you been in mock trial?
I've been in mock trial since my freshman year of high school. It was actually Avery Becker who convinced me to join the club.
So let's move on to your relationship with Avery Becker. Could you describe that relationship?
Avery and I have been very close friends. I would even say we were best friends. We've always gotten along very well, and I believe that she really helped me as a part of the team.
Thank you. And could you describe Avery's and Mr. Brackman's perceived relationship during practices?
Avery and Coach Brackman had a pretty terrible relationship. They never got along. Avery was lazy and unprepared.
Response to the objection, please.
Sorry, could you repeat the objection? I did not hear.
Speculation?
Well, Alex Fuentes, as a member of the mock trial team, she did participate in many practices, and as Avery Becker's friend, she did witness Mr. Brackman's and Avery Becker's relationship.
Any reply?
I stand by my objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And what was Mr. Brackman like as your coach?
Mr. Brackman was a great coach. He always had the team's best interest in mind and did everything he possibly could to make us the best team we could be.
And at practice, was Avery ever held accountable for her lack of preparation?
Coach Brockman tried to hold her accountable a couple times. At one point, he even demoted her to B team, but then she convinced her sidekick, Taylor Perkins, to quit the team so that she could be back on the A team.
Now I'd like to move on to the practice on March 5th, 2020. Were you at practice on March 5th?
Yes, I was.
And could you describe this practice?
This was the practice after regionals when we were going over everything that had gone well and things that didn't go as well to prepare for states. And Coach Brackman got particularly mad at Avery for being unprepared. Avery was furious that he was mad at her, stormed out of practice, and vandalized his car with a Sharpie by writing Worst Attorney Award on his white Porsche.
And how did Avery react to this?
Avery was so upset that she texted me that she was going to trash his house when he was at work.
Objection, hearsay.
Response?
Between Alex Fuentes and Avery Becker through text.
I'm sorry, can you state that again?
Yes, as seen in Exhibit 14, there was a communication between Alex Fuentes and Avery Becker through text.
So is your suggestion that this testimony is included in the text messages already admitted?
Yes.
Any reply to that?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And, well, yeah, that is it. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to start by talking about your involvement with the collection of evidence for this case. You were going to show the text messages between you and Avery to Detective Markowitz.
Yes, that is correct.
But you left your phone at home.
I did. My phone at the time had a pretty terrible battery life, and I had to charge it right up to the point when I left for my meeting with Mr. Markowitz so that it would hold enough charge to be able to show him the texts. Because I had to plug it in, I did unfortunately leave it at home. I did, however, offer to come back the next day with my cell phone to show him the text messages.
That was a yes or no question, so is that a yes?
Yes, I did leave my phone at home.
So instead you sent screenshots of the text to Detective Markowitz.
I did. I asked Detective Markowitz if he wanted me to come back the next day with my phone, and I was told that text messages would be just fine. Or I'm sorry, screenshots of the text messages would be just fine.
So you were the only one to physically see your phone.
I was, however, I did offer to bring it in, but the detective assured me that screenshots would be more than enough.
Is that a yes?
That is a yes.
And after that, you got rid of your phone?
Again, because it had a terrible battery life, I got a new phone as soon as I could. So yes, I do have a phone that works much better now.
I'm going to ask you about the day Avery got kicked off the team, March 5th. That day you saw Avery at the Fry Shack.
I did.
You played a game on Avery's phone.
I did. My phone didn't work well, so I would always play games on Avery's phone. That was one of my favorite parts of our friendship.
So that is a yes?
Yes.
Then Avery left with Taylor.
She did.
I'm now going to talk about your relationship with Avery Becker. You do not appreciate the way Becker treated your teammates.
That is correct. Avery's unpreparedness would make it much harder for the team to know what to expect and to work together as teammates. So it did make things a little more difficult for us, yes.
I'm going to politely ask you to continue with yes or no answers. Thank you. You think Avery always played the victim?
Yes, I do believe that. Whenever Avery and Coach Brackman would get into arguments, Avery would always try to make it seem like it was Brackman's fault and would never admit to being as unprepared as she was.
So is that a yes?
That is a yes.
You did not like how Avery would make things up on the spot on direct examination.
Specifically on cross-examinations and closings, it was hard for the team to work with Avery when Avery would not prepare a script and would come up with questions and closing statements during the trial.
That is a yes?
That is a yes.
You think it's unfair that Avery won the Best Attorney Award at the regional tournament?
I do think so, yes. Avery was unprepared and didn't put in the time or effort that the rest of us had.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
This is not speculation because this is Cifuentes' own feelings.
Any
So it is with
reply?
factually based perception.
Any reply to that?
The defense is suggesting that Alex Cifuentes felt feelings towards Avery Becker that she has not mentioned in her testimony.
All right, thank you. The objection is overruled.
Do you want me to ask that again?
Yes, please.
You think it's unfair that Avery won the Best Attorney Award at the regional tournament?
I do believe that the rest of the team put in a lot more time and effort than Avery.
Is that a yes?
That is a yes.
You think it's unfair that Avery got the Best Closing Argument Award at the regional tournament?
Yes, again, I think it's not fair that Avery managed to do so well despite being unprepared.
You think Avery does not work hard?
I do. I don't think Avery puts time and effort into the team and then manages to show up and do exceptionally well despite the fact that it is a big stressor for the rest of us.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Response?
This goes towards motive towards the defendant, bias towards the defendant.
Any reply? I'm sorry, Ms. Roth, I couldn't hear. Do you have a reply? We are not able to hear Ms. Roth at all now. I'm sorry. Ms. Roth, we can't hear you, but I'm going to overrule that objection.
Do we want to stop for Ms. Roth to figure out her
Let me have
audio
the
issues?
time. Let me have the timekeepers pause for a moment. And Ms. Roth, are you able to see any potential fix on your end? Let me ask the scorekeepers if you're able to hear Ms. Roth.
This is Mr. Henderson. No.
This is Greg Rich. I can't hear her right now.
This
Okay,
is Angel. I can't hear her.
all right.
Sometimes my audio stops working and I would get off the meeting and come back on again, so you could try that.
We'll take a pause to allow Ms. Roth to do that. Thank you for the suggestion, Ms. Grosshans.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I am communicating with Issa right now, and we're trying to figure out how to get her sound working. So we appreciate the pause.
Thank you. I understand, but I don't have a lot of detail. There may be a way to call in by phone as well.
That's a good idea. I know for now she's leaving the call and rejoining, so hopefully that works. Thank you for the suggestion. Ms. Grosshans?
Ms. Roth, are you, can you hear? Excuse me, I can see you. Let me see if we can hear you. No, So what I understand is if you click on the microphone, the up arrow next to that, then you may be able to select switch to phone audio and have some instructions on how to call in.
It might also work, sorry to interrupt, if I call Isa on my phone and put her on speakerphone, and then she could speak from my microphone, if just as a last resort, another idea.
I'm happy to try just about anything. Thank you for the offer.
Switching to the join audio by telephone phone call, there's a couple of numbers to be able to dial. Any one of them should be able to take you into the meeting.
I tried with the phone. Here, okay.
Wait, Isa, I think we can hear you now.
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Judge, you're muted.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Roth, let's try again. No.
It's showing that on her screen that she's muted. Huh?
All right, we'll give Ms. Roth a moment. She's going to try calling in.
Hi everyone, so we figured out a plan. I have Isa on my end on a phone, and Isa, do you want to introduce yourself from my microphone?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I have no idea what's going on with my mic.
Is that working? Can you guys hear her?
That is working. Thank you both for working that out.
Thank you for your patience.
It's actually louder than she was before, so I think this is an improvement.
Yeah, this is. All right, well, thank you for everyone's patience.
Okay. I'm not certain where we were at. There was an objection that had been lodged, but I don't even recall the objection at this point. Ms. Grosshands or Ms. Roth, do you recall your objection?
Yes, there was an objection of relevance.
Okay. And response?
It was for the regional tournaments, correct? For the regional tournament question line? Or?
Yeah, it was for
Could you repeat that, Isa?
Let's go back, Ms. Grosshands. Let's go back to your line of questioning. Pick up where you think you stopped, and we'll see if that jogs everyone's memories. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. You think it's unfair that Avery won the Best Attorney Award at the regional tournament?
objection of relevance.
Okay, and in response to that?
This is relevant. It establishes a bias against the defendant, Avery Becker, with like jealousy and negative emotions towards Avery Becker.
All right, thank you. Ms. Roth, any reply to that?
As Avery Becker's teammate, there's a balance of this and jealous emotions towards Avery Becker because they're teammates and they push each other to be better.
I will overrule the objection as it goes to bias. You may proceed.
You think it's unfair that Avery won the Best Attorney Award at the regional tournament.
Yes, I think Avery didn't put in the time or effort as the rest of the team, but was always on top.
So, is that a yes?
That is, yes.
You think it's unfair that Avery got the best closing. You think it's unfair that Avery got the Best Closing Argument Award at the regional tournament.
Again, I do believe that due to her lack of preparation, it was not entirely fair that she managed to do so well.
Is that a yes?
That is a yes.
You think Avery does not work hard.
I think she is unprepared and doesn't put in the time and effort at practices the way the rest of the team does.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
You thought that Avery won the awards solemnly based on looks.
Not solely, but looks could definitely play a part in that.
So is that a no?
Yes, but not entirely.
I'm now going to talk about the day Avery won. You were on the CHS mock trial team, correct?
I was.
And it's split into A team and B team?
That is correct, as many mock trial teams split.
And the A team has a limited amount of spots, correct?
Correct. The A team had the more experienced members of the team in general. Therefore, it was more limited who could get on the A team.
One day, Avery was late to mock trial.
She was, yes.
And that day, Brackman demoted Avery to B team?
That is correct, yes.
And you think Brackman was right in demoting Avery to B team?
I do. Avery had been late to practice not only once, countless times before that. And I was glad to see Brackman try to get the message across to Avery that lack of preparation, lack of time management skills, and all of these problems that she had were really hurting the team, and it was hard for the rest of us to move forward.
I'm going to ask you to keep your answers within the yes or no variety. Thank you.
Yes.
I am going to now talk about the vandalism on Brackman's car. Avery wrote on Brackman's car, correct?
She did, in Sharpie.
And you thought Brackman should have pressed charges when Avery wrote on Brackman's car.
I do believe so. Avery vandalized his property.
After Avery wrote on Brackman's car, Avery was removed from the mock trial team, correct?
That is correct.
You thought the team was better without Avery.
I wouldn't say the team was better, but we wouldn't have to endure the stress of not knowing what Avery's questions would be, and it would be a little easier for us to all work together collectively.
Did you just testify that the team wasn't better without Avery?
Avery was a very strong attorney and was definitely a benefit to our team. However, Avery's lack of preparation was a stress for the team. Therefore, Avery's removal did have both pros and cons for the team as a whole.
You thought the team was better without Avery, correct?
As I said, I believe Avery had both benefits and downfalls to being a part of the teams, and I can't be entirely sure if we would be better off without Avery. Things would certainly change due to COVID and state being canceled.
She just said she had an objection. Issa, do you want to repeat that?
Yes, I have an objection for speculation.
Thank you. I did not hear that. Ms. Roth, try that again.
Objection for speculation.
Thank you. Response?
This is not speculation because this is what Cifuentes thinks. And Cifuentes' thoughts are within her own rationally based perception.
Ms. Roth, any reply?
This is a question.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
You
I
said
stand by my objection.
Thank you. I will overrule the objection and you may continue.
You thought the team was better without Avery.
I believe Avery's attributes to the team had both positive and negative qualities, and due to COVID and states being canceled in general, I have no way of knowing if the team would have been better without Avery. But Avery did have both benefits and downfalls to the team.
Ms. Cifuentes, this is a yes or no question. Can you please answer as a yes or a no?
Due to the fact that the team never really continued after Avery because of leaving because of the pandemic, I cannot give you a definite answer if the team would be better or worse without Avery there.
But you think the team would be better without Avery.
I believe that the team would be under much less stress and be able to prepare with more ease.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Witness isn't responsive.
Witnesses is responding.
Judge, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I will sustain the objection for asked and answered.
Someone would have to fill Avery's place on the team.
Yes, that is correct. However, I do not believe we would be able to make changes before states, meaning we would likely have to forfeit our position altogether.
Is that a yes?
If the team were able to continue, then yes.
With Becker kicked off the team, you would have a larger role in mock trial.
Potentially. Again, we weren't able to continue forward, so I cannot say for certain if my role would have been larger or not.
And you were excited for the thought of having a larger role with Avery gone.
I was excited for the opportunity, but then again, Avery being off the team meant we would have to forfeit states, and that pain hurt more than the excitement of a potentially bigger role.
Is that a yes?
Sure.
That is not a yes. No more questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, timekeepers, is there any time remaining for redirect?
Seconds.
All right. Ms. Roth, do you have any redirect that you'd like to do?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
On text message.
I'm sorry, Ms. Roth, we cannot hear you.
So sorry. This might not work perfectly. Is it okay if I say her question? I know what it is, and it's just one, so hopefully it'll be under the 18 seconds. Or we can let it go. We appreciate everyone's patience.
We'll let that go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we'll give our scorekeepers a moment. Is there any other evidence from the prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Is there evidence from the defense?
The defense would like to call Avery Becker to the stand.
All right, you may. And where is Avery?
I'm right here. I'm Caitlin Mon, and I will be playing Avery Becker.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right, counsel, you may proceed.
Ms. Becker, where do you go to school?
I was a senior at Colorado High School, or CHS.
Were you involved in any clubs or activities at CHS?
I was involved in mock trial, and I did it for all my 4 years of high school.
Why did you decide to participate in mock trial?
My friend Taylor Perkins and I thought it would be a fun way to get out of the house, and my parents didn't let me play on my phone or use my phone at home unless I did my homework, so that was a way to get out of that.
Who was the coach of the mock trial team?
Kenzie Brackman, who was killed.
What exactly was your relationship with Mr. Brackman like?
We never really got along, but I definitely respected his coaching ability. But he always yelled at me for being lazy and that I didn't prepare, which caused a lot of arguments.
Did you ever get in any trouble with Mr. Brackman?
Yes, I remember one time before regionals, I was particularly unprepared, which caused me to get demoted to B team.
What exactly is the B team?
The B team is usually where the less experienced members are.
Did you ever get back onto the A team?
I did.
How?
My friend Taylor Perkins didn't really like mock trial, and since they were on A team, I talked to them and they offered to quit. And since there wasn't enough time before regionals to train someone else to have the role that Taylor and I did, I got put back on the A team.
And what exactly are the forms of competition in mock trial?
The forms of competition are tournaments. We have such as regionals and state.
How do you perform at the most recent competition?
I did really well. I received the best attorney and best closing award.
And how did Brackman respond to this success at the last regionals?
I thought he was going to be happy, but he said that I didn't deserve my best attorney award and that I was relying on my good looks. And he talked about my lack of preparation again in front of everyone at a mock trial meeting.
And then what did you do?
I got really upset and I insulted him, and I ended up storming off out of practice with what I thought was a dry erase marker in my hand. And I saw Brackman's car and I wrote Worst Attorney Award on it.
What did you think you wrote this message with?
I thought I wrote it with a dry erase marker, but I later learned that it was a permanent marker.
And how do you feel about accidentally using the permanent marker?
I feel awful.
Could you say the objection again?
Restate that objection. I'm sorry, say that again.
Objection leading the witness.
Response?
That wasn't a leading question.
You were asking the witness to talk about their feelings in this situation where they were using a permanent instead of a dry erase marker.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
How did you feel about accidentally using the permanent marker?
I feel awful and I regret it a lot.
Did you have any intent to ruin Brackman's car?
No, I didn't. I honestly thought it was a dry erase marker and wouldn't leave permanent harm. I never would have done it if it was a permanent marker.
And how did you observe Brackman respond?
He was really mad and he kicked me off of the mock trial team.
And what did you do the next morning?
I went to Brackman's office to apologize in person because I felt so bad, but his secretary said he didn't want to talk to me, so I left.
What did you do after you left Brackman's office?
I texted him to apologize. I offered to scrub his car and get the marker off or get a summer job that could pay for it to be repainted, but he never responded.
On March 5th, 2020, the day before Brackman was found deceased, did you go anywhere?
Yes, in the afternoon, I went to the Fry Shack and then the mall with Taylor Perkins.
Did you see anybody else at the Fry Shack?
Yes, the Fry Shack is a place where a lot of mock trial members like to go to hang out after practice, and so we ran into some of the team, including Alex Cifuentes.
How do you know Miss Fuentes?
I know them from mock trial. We're both on the team.
Were you and Miss Fuentes familiar beyond that?
No, we only knew each other in mock trial. We never really got along, and I didn't talk to her outside of mock trial.
Did you talk with Miss Fuentes at the Fry Shack, however?
We did. I did talk to her. We talked about me getting kicked off of the mock trial team, and Alex started to apologize, but we had never really gotten along in the past, so that upset me, and I stormed off.
Did you have anything with you while you were with Ms. Fuentes?
Yes, I had my phone that I was playing video games on, and I set it down when Alex approached me.
And may co-counsel please screen share Exhibit 14?
Yes.
Your Honor, you're muted.
I'm going to ask the scorekeepers to pause the time for a moment. Are there some technical difficulties?
I can screen share if there are technical difficulties.
I can as well.
Somebody can go ahead.
Mr. Smith, it's probably better if you do since you are the attorney.
All right. Let's move forward without the exhibit. You can question unless you think you can get this right away. I would rather, okay.
I should be able to. And never mind, I'll just continue without it.
All right, timekeepers, you may resume.
How do I stop the screen share?
At the top of the screen, there should be a button that says stop.
All right, thank you. What exactly is Exhibit 14?
Exhibit 14 is supposed text messages between me and Alex.
What exactly happens in Exhibit 14? What is said between the two of you?
I don't know because I didn't send them. It wasn't me.
So you've never seen the text messages?
No, I've never seen the text messages.
Did you send them?
No, I didn't send them. Alex and I don't talk outside of mock trial.
All right. And from what you know, did Ms. Fuentes have any friends?
Yes, they were friends with Blair Rollins.
Who exactly is Blair Rollins?
Blair Rollins was another student at Colorado High School.
Have you ever seen Blair Rollins?
Yes, I have. We go to the same school and we look very similar physically, and people confuse the two of us a lot.
And are you aware of Mr. Rollins' father, Jonathan Rollins?
Objection relevant.
Response?
This helps shows the motive of a potential other suspect.
Any reply?
There is no evidence for this other suspect in that has been presented, so questioning the witness about this should not be sustained.
Is the objection relevance or an unfair extrapolation objection?
Unfair extrapolation.
Right. And so, Mr. Smith, tell me the question again, please.
Are you aware of Mr. Rollins' father, Jonathan Rollins?
And the purpose behind the question, you said the relevance was what?
That it helps shows the motive of a potential other suspect.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Long, you stand on your unfair extrapolation objection?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. Hang on just a moment. Scorekeepers, I have an instruction to read to you. You, the scoring panelists, are the sole arbiters of this dispute based upon your own individual observations, good faith judgment, and consistent with the intent of the judicial process. You may decide that there was no extrapolation, or the statement was not unfair extrapolation, or the question did not ask for unfair extrapolation as it was not material, or the statement was unfair extrapolation, or the question was asking for unfair extrapolation as it was material. The ultimate decision is in the discretion of each of you individual scoring panelists. Consistently with your decision, you may award one or more points, deduct one or more points, or take no action at all with respect to any of the parties involved. If you determine that there was no unfair extrapolation or that there was no question asking for unfair extrapolation, you may deduct one or more points from the objecting party if you believe that objection was not made in good faith, was improvident, or was poor sportsmanship. Your decision is final. And now, Mr. Smith, you may proceed with your examination.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
Are you aware of Mr. Rollins' father, Jonathan Rollins?
Yes, our coach, who was also a lawyer, represented him in a case, and they lost, sending Blair's father to jail.
And the next morning, the day when Brackman was found deceased, what did you do?
I woke up and I couldn't find my phone. I looked around my room and it wasn't there. So me and Taylor decided to cut class and try to find it by retracing our steps.
And what efforts did you take to try and find your phone while retracing your steps?
We went to all the places we had been the day before, including the Fry Shack and the mall, and Taylor kept trying to call it and text to try to get a noise, but it kept going straight to voicemail and we never found it.
Did you ever stray from your search?
No, we kept on our path, retracing our steps.
And did you ever go by Mackenzie Brackman's house on March 6, 2020?
No, I don't even know where Brackman lives. We were just retracing our steps and we were at the mall and the Fry Shack.
Did you kill Mackenzie Brackman?
No, I hated Brackman, but I would never do that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, I did not give you an opportunity to respond to the unfair extrapolation objection. So if you want to make a response at this time, you may.
My response is, it is not unfair to extrapolate that there was another potential suspect as of now, as it's been proven that Blair Rollins had a very physically similar build to Avery Becker and thus could have also been the culprit seen in front of Mackenzie Brackman's house.
All right, thank you for your response. And we'll turn now to cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Becker, your relationship with Coach Brackman was not a positive experience before any incidents occurred, correct?
We didn't have a great relationship.
Did you vandalize Mr. Brackman's car?
I did.
And in your testimony, you stated that this was because of your anger towards him after he kicked you off the team for a lack of effort.
Yes, I was frustrated, but again, I didn't know the marker was permanent and I didn't think it would do any actual harm.
But you were responsible for vandalizing Mr. Brackman's car with a permanent marker, correct?
Yes, I am responsible and I regret it a lot.
Prior to the vandalism of Brackman's car, or after this incident, your mom made you apologize to him, correct?
It wasn't that my mom made me. We discussed it, but I wasn't forced. I chose to go there.
Do you know Alex Cifuentes?
I do. We're on mock trial together.
Did you two have a relationship of any kind?
We knew each other from mock trial, but we weren't friends.
And you stated that your cell phone was gone on the day of the crime, correct?
Yes.
However, you were actively using it before this period of time and your activity abruptly stopped, correct?
Yes, I was playing games and Alex came, and then that's the last thing I know.
And the texts sent to Alex Cifuentes have no date, correct?
Objection,
Correct.
speculation.
The exhibit that was presented in evidence has no date on it, so it's a piece of evidence that is in evidence.
Any reply?
The witness has stated that they have not seen the exhibit, so they can't speak on it.
The witness was present for the start of the trial, so they saw the text messages then.
All right. I will overrule the objection, but Mr. Long, please wait for the court to inquire. You may proceed. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you could have sent the text messages before you lost your phone, correct?
I didn't send the text messages.
But you could have sent the text messages before you lost your phone.
I didn't. There wasn't a possibility. I did not send the text messages.
I'll move on. I now want to direct your attention to March 6th, the day Mr. Brackman was murdered. You went to his house on this day, correct?
I went to, on March 6th?
Yes.
No, I didn't go to his house.
And you tried the front door, but it was locked.
No, I wasn't at his house.
And you went around back and found Mr. Brackman standing with a knife.
Objection,
No,
argumentative.
Your Honor, you're muted.
Response to the argumentative objection?
It provides a logical story that was presented in evidence by other witnesses.
I will overrule the objection. You may continue.
And a struggle occurred which resulted in you killing Mr. Brackman, correct?
I was with Taylor Perkins all day. We didn't go anywhere near Brackman's house. This isn't me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, you have stated in court that you hated Mackenzie Brackman. Did you hate him enough to kill him?
No, I didn't. I might have not liked him, but I would never kill him.
And did you ever go near Brackman's house on the day of the murder?
No, I was searching for my phone and I have someone who can testify that as well. We were looking for my phone.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll give our scorekeepers a moment, please. The defense may call their next witness.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Taylor Perkins to the stand.
All right. And do I see Taylor? Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, counsel.
Good evening, Ms. Perkins. Please state your first name and spell the last for the record.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Perkins, Perkins.
So, Ms. Perkins, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you attend school?
So currently I'm a freshman at CU Boulder, but I attended Colorado High School last year.
And at Colorado High School, what extracurricular activities were you part of?
I was a part of mock trial only because my best friend did it.
And who's your best friend?
Avery Becker. She was also on the team and also went to Colorado High School.
And how did you and Avery Becker perform at mock trial?
I mean, I was okay, but she was amazing. She didn't put much effort into it, which made Brackman mad.
Who's Brackman?
Brackman is our coach as well as a litigator.
Did you notice Avery coming unprepared for meetings often?
I mean, sort of, but she always made it work. But there was that one day where it became pretty bad.
And what occurred during that meeting?
Sorry, objection, Your Honor. The lawyer asked a leading question during direct examination.
What's the leading question? The last question I heard was what happened in a meeting.
remember the specific question. Do you, the person?
It was a question that was asked previously and answered already.
I said the objection while the witness was in the middle of answering the question.
All right. I will overrule the objection, and counsel, you may proceed.
Ms. Perkins, would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
And what occurred during that meeting that was really bad?
Avery came unprepared and Brackman wasn't too happy about it.
Did Brackman do anything about it?
Yeah, he got pretty angry and demoted Avery to the B team.
And how did you react to those events?
I felt so bad for her, and I didn't care that much for mock trial, so I stepped down.
Why did you step down?
So Brackman wouldn't have any other choice but to let Avery back on the team.
Do you have any regrets about that decision?
No, I was right for what I did. I was supporting my friend.
And after you made that decision, how did you observe the team performed?
Well, regionals went pretty well, but Avery was kicked off the team before state.
And why was Avery kicked off of the team?
I mean, it was an accident and she apologized over and over again, but she wrote on Brackman's car, which she thought was a dry erase marker.
And what happened after that?
We tried to get Avery back on the team, but when she showed up for practice, Brackman made her leave.
Right, let's talk about Thursday, March 5th. What happened after Avery left practice that day?
Avery came over to my house and we just hung out.
And were you guys at your house for the rest of the evening?
After playing games, we got pretty hungry and we went to the Fry Shack.
And who else was at the Fry Shack?
I mean, we should have expected it, but most of the mock trial team was there, including Alex Cifuentes.
And who is Alex Cifuentes?
This kid on the mock trial team, and he also goes to CHS.
How would you describe the relationship between Alex and you?
Honestly, I found him to be pretty passive-aggressive and very fake.
And from your observations, how would you describe the relationship between Alex and Avery?
Not the best. They didn't get along.
Now, speaking of other students at Colorado High School, did you know of a student named Blair Rollins?
I mean, yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Leading question. The question suggests its own answer.
And then any response, excuse me?
Your Honor, it wasn't a leading question I was just asking if my witness knew of a certain potential suspect.
Ms. May, any reply?
A leading question is, again, a question that suggests its own answer, and this was a yes or no question in direct examination. So really the question suggested either yes or no, and that's a leading question.
Thank you. The objection is overruled. You may proceed, Ms. Sodi.
Ms. Perkins, would you like me to restate the question?
No, thank you. Yeah, I did know of him. He was actually kind of weird, and he was friends with Alex Cifuentes. Plus, everyone knows that he had this vendetta against Brackman because Brackman lost the case that sent Roland's dad to prison.
And what happened while you guys were at the Fry Shack?
Avery got pretty upset because of how unfair it was that she got kicked off the team and stormed off to the bathroom.
What happened when she stormed off?
She left her phone on the table, which really showed how upset she was because her phone was like her third kidney.
And when did you guys eventually leave the Fry Shack?
Right after Avery came back from the bathroom, I started to reach my limits with Alex.
You mentioned Avery left her phone at the table. Do you remember if Avery took her phone when you guys left?
Honestly, she's left it once before. She may or may not have picked it up when we left.
And what did you guys do for the rest of the night?
We just went to the mall for a little bit.
So let's move on to the actual day of the crime. What occurred the next morning on March 6th?
Avery and I rode to school together, and we realized that she had lost her phone after she did not reply to my text messages.
And how did you react to that realization?
We were pretty concerned, so I suggested that we take the day off from school and go and retrace and look for it.
Where did you guys go to retrace your steps?
Well, first we went to the mall, but after not finding it, we went to the Fry Shack.
Did you guys use any other technology or any other phones to try to contact the phone?
Yeah, we used my phone, but it wasn't picking anything up.
And when did you guys finally stop searching for the phone?
Well, we went back to the fry shack just in case the afternoon shift had any information. But it was kind of weird because the mock trial team was there too.
Why did you think that was weird?
Well, they were supposed to be at practice, but apparently Brackman never showed up.
Throughout the course of the day, did you guys ever stray from your search for the phone?
No, we spent the whole day looking for the phone.
And did you guys ever go near Brockman's house?
No, we just went to the mall and the fry shack.
Were you with Avery all day?
Yes, I was.
And over the course of these couple days, did you observe Avery acting unusually angry or passionate?
Only really when she left her phone on the table, but even then, she has never been irrational enough to commit murder.
And Miss Perkins, why are you testifying here today?
To tell the truth.
And since you and Avery are so close, would you ever lie to support her?
No, when it concerns someone's life, I would never lie.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. I just have a few questions, if you're okay with that.
Yes.
I'd like to start by talking about your friend, Avery Becker. Was Avery routinely late to practice?
Yeah, she was.
And was Avery routinely unprepared for practice?
Objection relevance.
May I respond to that, Your Honor? This is incredibly relevant. We're trying to determine the relationship between Avery Becker and her mock trial coach, Mr. Brackman, and this is a very, and it relates to motive, and this is a very relevant piece of information.
And any reply?
Your Honor, I don't see how Avery's work ethic or responsibilities go towards the relationship between Taylor Perkins and Avery Becker, or the motives towards Taylor or Avery Becker for committing the crime.
Thank you. I will overrule the objection. You may answer that.
Thank you. I can repeat my question. Was Avery routinely unprepared for practice?
She was, yes, but she always made it work. She was very talented and very passionate about mock trial. So even though she did come unprepared, she always made it work.
So that's a yes. She was unprepared.
Yes, because she was very talented and always made it work.
And so you stepped down from the And as a result, Avery was demoted to the B team, correct?
She was, and fairly so.
Mm-hmm. And so you stepped down from the A team as well?
I did, yes.
And this forced Mr. Brackman to let Avery Becker back on the A team?
It did, yes.
And is it true that Avery Becker was permanently kicked off the mock trial team?
She was, yes.
And is that because Avery vandalized Mr. Brackman's car with permanent Sharpie?
I mean, she swore it was an accident, and she thought she grabbed a dry erase marker. She had no negative intent of doing what she did.
So you're telling me that she did not mean to write on the car in any form?
Yes.
All right. And you say in your testimony that you spent the day of the murder at the mall looking for Avery's phone with her. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just to recap, Avery was the reason you joined mock trial, correct?
Yes.
And she was the reason you quit at one point?
Yes.
And now she was the reason that you ditched school?
Actually, it was my idea to go look for her phone.
Did you ditch school to look for Avery's phone?
Yes, we were pretty concerned, so we took the whole day, and throughout our day we went to the mall as well as the fry shack to retrace our steps and look for her lost phone, as it was very concerning.
I'm sorry, it was a yes or no question. Is that a yes?
That is a yes, to look for her lost phone.
And you're extremely loyal to Avery, correct?
I am, but my loyalty would never cloud my my judgment, and I would never lie for someone.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Perkins, why did you step down from the Colorado High School's B team?
I stepped down to support my friend Avery Becker.
And why did you choose not to go to school on March 6, 2020?
we were very concerned about Avery's lost phone, so we went back to retrace our steps in hopes that we would find her lost phone.
And Miss Perkins, would you ever lie for Avery Becker?
No, never. My loyalty would never cloud my judgment. I would never lie. And after all, I am here to tell the truth.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll give our scorekeepers just a moment. The defense may call their next witness.
The defense calls Professor Van Owen to the stand.
Professor Van Owen, will you raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Professor Van Owen. Can you state your name and spell your last for the record?
Hello, my name is Blake Van Owen, Vanowen.
And what do you do for a living?
I am a private investigator, a professor, and expert witness in police practices.
And what did you do before you were a private investigator, a professor, and an expert in police practice?
I worked in the Aurora Police Department. I also worked as a school resource officer and a private security guard.
And what type of education do you have?
I got my master's degree in criminal justice at Ashford University. I also taught classes in police procedures at Community College of the Rockies, and I've also taught a class or a course for 5 years at CU Denver in police procedures.
As an expert witness, what areas do you specialize in?
I specialize regularly as an expert witness in areas of police practices, use of force, false arrest, forensic evidence techniques, crime scene reconstruction, cell phone tower analysis, as well as general police investigation tactics.
In what states have you been accepted as an expert witness in?
I have been accepted as an defense expert witness in the U.S. District Courts of Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, and New Mexico. I've also been accepted as an expert in crime scene reconstruction 8 times, cell phone tower analysis 5 times, and general police investigation 12 times. I've also been consulted in over 100 cases.
What does being a defense expert witness entail?
I do a lot of quality work. I do research and writing or investigation work.
Your Honor, I move to offer Blake Van Owen as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell phone tower analysis, and general police investigation tactics.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, permission to do a brief voir dire.
I'm sorry, Ms. Roth. Speak up a little bit more, please.
Yes, Your Honor, permission to do a brief voir dire.
You may.
I'd like to talk about your experience as a crime scene reconstruction expert. Have you been certified in this field?
No, but I did get my master's degree in criminal justice.
And do you have any education specifically in the field of crime scene reconstruction?
No, but it does pertain to the degree I'm in and the work that I do.
And have you ever worked as a crime scene reconstructor?
No, but I do analyze that work.
And moving on to cell tower analysis, have you ever been certified in that field?
No, but like I said, I've also analyzed that work as well.
And have you received any education specifically in cell tower analysis?
No.
Your Honor, I object to Blake Van Owen being entered as an expert witness in crime scene reconstruction on the grounds of the lack of experience, training, and knowledge.
Thank you. Any reply?
Van Owen has plenty of experience and knowledge in this subject, as she has been accepted as an expert witness in many states and many categories.
Court overrules the objection, finds that Professor Van Owen has sufficient experience to be qualified as an expert. The court accepts her as such.
As an expert, what steps would you take to investigate a case like this?
I would review the police reports, the crime scene reconstruction, the cell reports, the exhibits, and conduct investigation into other possible witnesses.
And what have you investigated in this case?
I reviewed the police reports and the crime scene reconstruction by Kyle Kuzak and the cell phone reports and exhibits by Detective Markowitz. I also conducted a partial investigation in areas I believe the defense's expert witnesses neglected in.
In your expert opinion, what is your conclusion on this investigation?
The police investigation was rushed and there were missing pieces.
And what were these missing pieces?
There's inconsistencies with the crime scene reconstruction, the physical evidence of a struggle, the weapon, the theory that Brackman was surprised by the ring notification, and the photos of the blood is missing.
Let's start with the crime scene reconstruction. What did you agree with in Kuzak's crime scene reconstruction?
I agree that that there is physical evidence that the intruder broke into Brackman's home.
What do you disagree with in the creation of the crime scene reconstruction?
Markowitz planted the idea into Kyle Kuzak's mind that Avery Becker was a suspect before Kyle Kuzak was able to analyze the crime scene. That may have caused Kyle Kuzak to notice evidence that Avery Becker broke into Brackman's home without noticing the inconsistencies.
Now, to move on to the physical evidence of struggle, what's inaccurate with that?
The only evidence of a supposed struggle is the scuffing on the floor. These scuffs on the floor could have been made anytime and by anything before the murder happened.
Is there any way to date scuff marks?
No.
I will now talk about the missing pieces surrounding the murder weapon. What was inaccurate with the theory of the murder weapon?
In Kyle Kuzak's investigation, they come to the conclusion that the intruder stabbed Brackman with the same knife that Brackman retrieved from his knife block. There is no evidence that that knife even came from Brackman's kitchen in the first place.
And what is the evidence that the knife wasn't from Brackman's kitchen?
The murder weapon was a different brand, different style, and dimension to the knives on the knife block.
And where do you think this knife came from?
I believe that that knife was brought in from the murder.
Was there anything else wrong with the knife?
The knife's position in the hand.
And what is your interpretation on how the knife would have been held?
I believe the knife would have been held similarly like in the movie Psycho in a downward hold. I have reviewed hundreds of cases of stabbings, and most of the time the knife is held in a downward hold compared to an upward hold.
Can you demonstrate to the judge and jury the difference in knife holds?
Yes, this is a downward hold, and this is a upward hold.
And why do you think the knife was in a downwards hold?
The construction of the knife is handled, or the construction of that knife handle is designed for the user's hand to go to a certain side compared to the other side. The user's hands are comfortable one way and uncomfortable the other.
Now that we've established the knife was used in a downwards angle, how does this change the prosecution's narrative?
For Brackman and the murderer to both be standing up, and for the murderer to be able to stab Brackman in the back and hit his aorta, the murderer would have to be taller and bigger than Brackman. In the ring security videos, the intruder isn't that big.
Then what do you think happened instead?
I think that Brackman was sitting down, unaware that the intruder broke into his home and was about to stab him in the back.
And why do you say that Brackman was unaware of the intruder?
Well, ring notifications alert the user that someone is at their front door, but there is an option to turn off those notifications. So Brackman may have turned the notifications off, didn't look at the notifications, or didn't have his phone with him at that time.
And why was the ring notification a missing piece in this investigation?
Well, Detective Markowitz could have obtained the user's record accounts for the ring video in order to see if Brackman had his notifications on or off, but he didn't, or they didn't.
I will now talk about the last inconsistency of the crime scene reconstruction. What was missing about the photos of blood?
The police lost the pictures of the blood drops in the hallway and the blood cast off on the door or on the wall near the front door.
I would now like to talk about the cell phone records. I would now like to direct everyone's attention to Exhibit 15 and 16 if co-counsel will pull that up for me. What is this?
This is a picture of the cell phone records.
And what is a cell phone record?
Call detail records provide information of where, when, and how calls are made.
And as a summary of this exhibit, what does this exhibit prove to your theory?
The cell phone tower 1191 shows call from Taylor Perkins' phone number relayed from antenna 2 to 3. For each call and text to Becker from Perkins, Perkins' phone is relayed by tower 1191, antenna 2. Antenna 2 covers a mall. Later at 2:10 p.m., Perkins' phone is connected to antenna 3 for an outgoing call to Becker's phone. Becker's phone is shown to not receive it, so it was either out of battery or it was pinned off a tower that was further, and Markowitz did not check.
Right. I see that that's time.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination. Ms. Roth, we can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. Hello. Now I'd like to ask you a few questions about your past occupation. Is it true that you served as a police officer in the Aurora Police Department?
Yes.
In your testimony, you considered yourself the jack of singular trade of policing, correct?
Yes.
And you also stated in your testimony that you think of yourself as the check on the power of the police, correct?
Objection, relevance?
Response?
This is relevant because I am going to go on and this is a part of Mrs. Owens' past occupation as a police officer.
Any reply?
I stand by my objection.
The objection is overruled, and Ms. Roth, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And is it true that you served in the Aurora Police Department?
Yes.
Did you leave the Aurora Police Department after injuring a young woman of color?
Yes, but I felt bad about it, so I, of course, decided to quit.
And was that during an arrest?
Can you say that again?
And was that during an arrest?
Yes, I didn't agree with those.
A relevance objection. Any response?
This is a very important part of Mrs. Owens' past as a police officer and can affect her credibility as a law enforcement.
Any reply?
This does not affect the witness's credibility, considering the technique used itself was approved, and she wasn't fired because of it, so I don't see how this goes towards credibility.
However, the
objection is overruled. You may continue.
and is it true that she sued the Aurora Police Department?
Yes, she did.
And did she also sue you individually?
Yes, she did.
Now let's move on to the specifics of your current occupation. Is it true that you charge $225 an hour for research writing and investigation work?
Yes, I do a lot of quality work, so yeah.
And is it also true that you charge $450 an hour for in-court testimony?
Yes, but those things don't affect anything about when it comes to the work that I've done.
And will you personally make around $8,000 as a result of this case?
Yes.
And have you only testified for the defense in the case?
Yes, that's what I'm good at, so that's what I usually testify as.
And you knew Kyle Cusack before this case, correct?
Yes.
And you would describe him as a little egotistical, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And is it true that you have analyzed the cell tower records of Avery Becker's phone?
Yes.
And the records show that Avery's phone was near the house at the time of the murder?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. I believe the defense is out of time, so that will conclude the professor's testimony. We'll give our scoring panelists a moment. Sorry. Is there any additional evidence from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
And we'll move on to our closing arguments. People may proceed with closing arguments.
Thank you, Your Honor. In his freshman year at Colorado High School, Avery Becker joined the mock trial team. And that is when he met Mackenzie Brackman, a man that he would someday murder. Mr. Brackman tried to hold Avery accountable for his actions, which drove Avery crazy. She would show up to mock trial practice, ill-prepared and late, and became furious when Mr. Brackman called her out on it. Even though she was disappointing her friends, teammates, and coach, Avery learned that she could get away with a consistent lack of effort. Avery thought that she was above preparation because she was a talented improviser. But talent has the ability to disorient a person from the reality of malpractice. Avery's disconnection with the consequences of her actions became even more apparent when she vandalized Mr. Brackman's vintage car. As a result, Avery was permanently dispelled from the mock trial team her senior year. The unthinkable happened. For the first time, Avery was forced to deal with the fallout of years of disrespect and laziness. This was quite a shock, considering how Avery was so used to getting away with things. And so, Avery set out to get revenge. The Ring doorbell videos show that the defendant tried to open the front door and, upon finding it locked, went to the back of the house. Avery Becker slid open the door, surprised to find Mr. Brackman armed and ready for the struggle that would follow. The signs of this struggle are clearly displayed throughout the kitchen, from the open knife drawer, to the missing knife in the knife block, to the broken plate and scuff marks. It is clear that Avery and Mr. Brackman fought over control of the knife. It was a fight that Mr. Brackman did not win, and it was a fight that would cost him his life. When Avery stabbed Mr. Brackman in the back, she went from a selfish and lazy teenager to a murderer. Avery, a murderer with a history of getting away with things, should not get away with this final act of injustice. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask that you carefully review the evidence presented in this case. I ask you to consider the text messages that Avery sent to Alex Cifuentes, clearly spelling out her intentions to break into Mr. Brackman's house. I ask that you take careful note of the cell tower data, which shows that Avery's phone traveled from her house to the scene of the crime on the day that Mr. Brackman was murdered. The jury should also consider Avery's flimsy alibi, Taylor Perkins. Taylor Perkins has a history of being manipulated into lying for Avery's sake, which is exactly what she did today. The jury must find Avery Becker guilty beyond reasonable doubt, and the plethora of evidence presented in this case allows you to do just that. That is because the defense's claims are weak and unreasonable. They are crossing their fingers and hoping that you accept a story with no tether to the reality of this case. So I ask that the members of this jury finally deliver justice. I ask that the jury finds Avery Becker guilty of murdering his mock trial coach, Mr. Brackman, and hold her responsible for the first time in her life. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a moment for our scoring panelists. Closing argument for the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is unfinished. This case was rushed. This case jumped to conclusions. This case cannot prove a single count. Avery Becker was a victim of improper and biased investigation. This investigation has so many missing and unconnected pieces. This case is a puzzle, yes. And without it being completed, you will always have doubt. Avery Becker had an alibi the whole day. They were with their friend, Taylor Perkins, who testified today and substantiated the alibi. Perkins' phone confirms this story by showing Perkins and Avery were exactly where they said they would be, the mall. Perkins' phone confirms this story by showing Perkins and Avery were doing exactly what they said they would do. Call Avery's phone to find it. Avery Becker did not unlawfully, feloniously, and knowingly break an entrance into, entered, or remain unlawfully after a lawful or unlawful entry in the dwelling of Mackenzie Brackman, located on 444 Flower Street, with the intent to commit therein the crime of criminal mischief. Pursuant to jury instruction number 9, the elements of criminal mischief is that the defendant in the state of Colorado or about the date and place charged knowingly damaged the real or personal property of another person. What is this property the intruder damaged? The broken plate? The scuff marks? The plate cannot be proven to have been broken by the intruder, much less Avery Becker. The scuff marks cannot be proven to have been made at the time of the break-in. Without proving the crime of criminal mischief, the burglary and breaking and entering charges cannot be proven. There is no evidence Avery Becker broke into Brackman's house. There is no evidence Avery was near the dwelling. The prosecution opines Becker's phone was in Brackman's area at the time of the crime. However, Becker lost their phone the day before the crime. Avery Becker did not unlawfully and feloniously commit or attempt to commit second-degree burglary, and during the course and furtherance of the crime, caused the death of Mackenzie Brackman. The prosecution's theory collapses in on itself. There is no evidence that the intruder's intention was to burglarize. The only evidence the prosecution presents is screenshots from Cifuentes' phone, a phone that was never seen by Detective Markowitz. Not to mention the incredible bias Cifuentes has against Becker. Cifuentes testifying to being Becker's best friend, but determined to remove Becker from the mock trial team in order to get a better role himself. Cifuentes, who was the last person known to hold Becker's phone at the fry shack. The crime scene, too, does not have any evidence the intruder's intention was to burglarize. The knife does not match the other knives in the kitchen by brand, style, and dimensions. This knife was brought onto the scene with the intent to murder, not burglarize. The prosecution did not investigate anyone else. They did not investigate anyone else's call detail records. They did not investigate any witnesses that could confirm or deny Becker's location the day of the murder. They did not investigate any other possible suspects. They did not investigate Cifuentes, who has motive to frame Becker. They did not investigate Blair Rowlands, who has the same build as Becker, lives in the same area as Becker, and has an even stronger motive. The prosecution was sloppy and made assumptions with the collection of evidence, keeping of evidence, and analysis of evidence. The ring video logs are missing. Markowitz never checked to see if Brackman turned his notifications off. The blood photos are missing. The files allegedly got corrupted. The evidence of criminal mischief is missing. They cannot prove the intruder broke anything of Brackman's. Becker's phone is missing. Becker's exact location is missing. Becker is missing from the crime scene. The prosecution has the burden of proof, and that burden was too much to bear. This case is unfinished puzzle pieces with missing pieces, and it is impossible to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt without seeing the full picture. Don't only get justice for Avery Becker, no, we are asking you to get justice for Mackenzie Brackman, whose killer is still out there. I implore you to side with the defense and find Avery Becker not guilty.
Thank you. We'll take a short pause for our scoring. And we'll turn to the prosecution for their rebuttal closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution is asking you to ignore a lot of evidence. They are asking you to ignore cell tower records that clearly implicate Avery Becker's phone. They are asking you to ignore a broken plate, an open knife drawer, a missing knife from the knife block, and scuff marks. They are asking you to ignore the Ring doorbell notifications as well. You may be wondering, why are they expecting us to ignore all of this evidence? The answer is simple. The defense does not have a concrete alternate proposition. Maybe they're just new to puzzles. They are taking cheap shots at police work to distract from the fact that the overwhelming evidence points to a clear conclusion. And that's the conclusion that the jury must come to today. The evidence in this trial suggests very clearly and without any doubt that Avery Becker is guilty of murdering his mock trial coach, Mr. Mackenzie Brackman. And that is why the prosecution asks for a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me invite everyone to turn their cameras back on. All right. We're mostly there. Let me start with congratulations. You've done a terrific job. We're going to give our scoring panelists a little bit of time here to finish up their work, and then I'm going to ask them to make comments. I wanted to mention a couple of things at the outset. First, you have now experienced what it's like to be a trial lawyer, because trial lawyers know that when technology can go wrong, it will, and it will do so at the worst possible time, and that's during trial. So you experienced some technical problems throughout this. You handled those very well. You didn't get flustered. And so you should be commended for that. And also keep in mind that you're not scored on technology, and the fact that computer issues come up don't count against you. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. If our panelists are ready, I'll turn it over to y'all for comments. Let me start with Angel. Are you ready?
Excuse me, Judge, I have a question. I never received enough time to look at their roster to be able to spell any of the names. Do they
Okay.
have a roster that they could provide?
We can.
I got the names under their pictures, okay? But what I really don't know is the team designation.
Okay, the teams are the plaintiff or the people is team W.
Okay.
And the defense is team L.
Okay, I think I can get the names. I was writing them down. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Do you need a minute to gather your thoughts? Or are you ready to give them some feedback?
I can go ahead and give some feedback.
Okay, thank you.
This was, you guys both did a really great job, well prepared, and the case was pretty interesting. I was trying to follow exactly the cell phone thing and the knife, and I thought it was really good. Let's see, I just want to say the prosecution did do a good job. They asked good questions. I felt like you guys were very well prepared. And so that's what I wanted to say. You did a good direct, and then you did a good cross.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to Mr. Rich. Do you have any comments for these fine young lawyers?
I want to thank you all for putting in the hard work, and I know it's very hard, especially with the delay in the schedule, unexpected, and so you're probably sitting around just wondering when you're going to get a chance to start again. And I know that it's a very hard thing to do, and I commend you all for putting in what is clearly a lot of hard work in preparing for this. Few things. I want to start with the defense theory. You said in your opening that you will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that your client's innocent. What is your burden to prove as the defense? You don't have one. Don't give yourself a burden that's higher than what you have. Don't tell somebody that you're going to prove something you don't have to prove. Right? It's the prosecution that has the burden to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense doesn't have to prove that. So don't tell us that you're gonna. And that actually goes to the prosecution's closing as well. And this is something that might have just kind of slipped out at the end. Ms. May, who I think did a fantastic job throughout, by the way. You said that you were going to prove, or that you had proved without any doubt. You're giving yourself too high a burden. Remember, it's just beyond a reasonable doubt, which you know. But you kind of got caught up in it, which I get, makes sense. And I want to commend you because you had a strong knowledge of your rules, Ms. May, and you were able to submit evidence very well. Frankly, all of you who were tendering evidence, you knew exactly how to do it. You did a great job with that. Some of the ejections, you got to know what's hearsay, what's not hearsay, which will come. You have to know what is. So one leading question objection, the objection was it suggests either a yes or a no. Well, that doesn't mean it's leading. It has to suggest the yes, or it has to suggest the no. It can't suggest either one of them, because then it's not leading. You're giving them the option. And so if you have an option to answer yes or no, then it's not a leading question. At one point, Mr. Orcutt, you did a great job as your witness, and you answered a question one time. You said no, and then you said that is correct. I talk to my clients all the time before their depositions or their testimony. You have to listen to the question, and this is what you are doing, because the cross-examination is instructed to get a yes answer. But the problem is sometimes they're asking something in the negative. So Mr. Orca, you're not a woman, are you? Well, no. I mean, yes, that's correct. I don't remember what the exact question was, but that's exactly what you did, because it's a confusing question when you're asking someone to agree with the negative. And so just be aware of that when you're asking questions. So Ms. Grosshans, you were in a untenable situation when your cross-examination witness would not give you a straight answer. You were asking yes or no, and that just wasn't coming. Ms. Sokol was slippery. She would not give you a direct yes or no answer, no matter how many times you asked. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses with that. I think maybe Ms. Sokol, you might have taken it a little bit too far by never giving a yes or no answer. But it was it's a frustrating thing. And so I think, Mr. Smith, when you were dealt with that situation, you did a good job, because they started to expand on the answer and you just said, thank you. And they stopped. That's one really good way of doing it. Another way is, if you're in person, you just kind of hold up your hand, right? And then, naturally somebody might just stop. It doesn't work as well when you're on the computer. But, that's just it's something that's really hard to deal with. I thought you did a great job, Mr. Smith, when you were dealt with that situation. Ms. Grosshans, on your closing, very passionate. I mean, I was ready to get on board. That was great. And I did like the theme on the defense for missing pieces. I think that was played well throughout. I could go on forever, but I'm going to stop now and let someone else give you some critiques. Good job all around.
Thanks. And then Angel, they are asking for you to submit your score sheet. You're muted. All right. While you work on that, we'll turn over to Mr. Henderson.
Thank you. And job really, really well done by every single one of you, from the witnesses to the directs, the crosses, the openings, and the closings. Excellent, excellent presentation. As you are now learning, it takes a lot of work to be a trial lawyer. All you see at the very end is the actual show. You don't, the jury never gets to see all the practice. Well, now you have a much better appreciation for what us trial lawyers have to go through. Really, really well done. As Judge Lutweiler said, you now know what it's like to be a lawyer when hiccups occur, whether or not that's a delay, which happens in real life in court for any number of different reasons, or it's technology problems. And I do want to commend both teams for really outstanding professionalism, because you didn't try to use against the other team things that were outside of their control, the technology issues, and including, or you were very good about making an offer to help. Let me help you, and that really is something that plays very well to a jury, plus plays very well to the judge, because the judge will see that you're trying to do the right thing. One just little Zoom idiosyncrasy is one of the witnesses at one point started getting a little nervous and started doing this in his or her chair. And when you're in Zoom, that just is broadcast, because of course we can only see you from the shoulders up. So take note of that. The crosses were really, really well done. I do agree with what Mr. Rich said, which is, when you have a witness that is just, you're never going to be able to rein them in, holding up the hand or saying thank you, as opposed to at the very end, well, was that a yes or a no? That's Another option that you have would be to, and I don't know whether this is in your rules, would be to ask the judge to please instruct the witness to answer a yes or no question with yes or no. There were some of those questions, however, that really were not answerable yes or no. So just things to keep in mind. One thing, both sides knew their cases backwards and forwards. I could tell that there was more reading of a prepared remarks or prepared script on the part of the prosecution than there was on the defense. So kudos to the defense. Prosecution, what I would tell you is have confidence. Put your notes aside. Try it without it. You'll find that you're able to be much more passionate and you can connect much better with the camera in front of you if you're looking at the camera as opposed to looking down at your notes. But really remarkable job by all of you and a huge thumbs up.
Thanks, Tom. I can't add a whole lot. I agree with the comments that have been made. Everyone was very well prepared, and it's clear you know the case, as Tom said, backwards and forward. And to sort of tack on to that, I agree. Be with Tom, be courageous and put away the notes. What happens, what I find, is that if you have that script, you will rely on it. You'll end up reading it, and you don't need it. If you just feel the need that you need to have something, then I'd suggest have some note cards, a few 3x5 cards, and I really mean a few, with only a few notes on each card. So you can look at it quickly to remind yourself of the next point that you want to make. I think that none of you even need the note cards because you know this so well. So ditch the notes, ditch the script, and you are going to find that you're nervous at first, and then you're going to do fantastic. A very quick note on my rulings on all of the objections. I was wrong at least half the time. I overruled every objection except for one on asked and answered. And in a real trial, that would not have been the case. Typically, my practice in the mock trial tournaments is to mostly overrule objections because I want to hear the objection, the reason for it, the response, to get y'all thinking and find out what your position is. And so my actual ruling on the objection is much less important than how you handle it. But there are certainly times when a judge, me and others, will sustain objections, and it might mean that you can't get some evidence that was important to you. So be prepared for that. Know that, all right, I might get a sustained objection and I'm going to have to move on. Many of those objections likely would have been sustained in a real trial, but I think everybody handled everything very well. It's late, and I know that you all would like to get going. I applaud everyone for all of the work that you've put into it. You've done a terrific job. I am happy to answer any questions that you have, but I'm also happy to just let y'all get moving along. If anyone has questions, yell out, let me know. All right. Well, go ahead.
Really appreciate it. Yes, this was a really fun night, and thank you for your patience with all the technical difficulties.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I appreciate how everybody handled that. Good luck to you in the 2 rounds tomorrow. All right, thanks everyone. And
okay, good night, sleep, and enjoy yourself.
Angel, are you able to, have you been able to submit your score sheet? Your microphone is muted.
I'm working on my score sheet. I was not given a roster, and I'm trying to take it from Scribble onto the computer. I have it, but I'm not finished with it. I'm typing the names in.
I'll let them know.
I suggest tomorrow that we get rosters. This is really hard trying to scribble as we go, okay?
I think they'll be filled in tomorrow.
Right, and I will submit this as soon as I get it finished. Is the submission at the bottom of the page?
It is. There's a little submit button.
Okay, tell them to hang in there.
I'll
And
let
I'm
them know.
complaining.
I'll let them know. All
Okay.
right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have an amazing night.